There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, neither do I.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
Hello and welcome to the Power Chord Hour podcast, episode 133. Thanks for checking it out. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Merchant, here with you. I know we've been slacking a little bit on this show in February, but we're back with the February 2023 rundown of the podcast. We're very quiet on the podcast front. I mean, I kind of forgot. I knew we had done it for a couple weeks, but literally before I hit record here, I was just double checking what episode this would be. And realized our last episode was a January rundown. So, I mean, we've definitely been a little radio silent here on the podcast. Now, funny enough, on the radio show, no, I've had an episode every week over there, but it's it's just more of the guest thing. I really haven't had any guests this month. So, not a whole lot for, doing the podcast besides like doing the monthly rundown. I didn't have a whole lot to come on here and do, won't lie. So, we did quite a bit on the radio show, just playing music and kind of doing the classic radio episodes. But yeah, very quiet on here. My apologies. That will change in March. We're getting things are ramping back up. I have a few guests booked, and just yesterday, actually like exactly like 24 hours ago, I'm recording this right now at 5 p.m. and on Saturday, and yesterday at 5 p.m. on Friday, I did a first interview in a while there since having Leo from Reminders on. I do interviews weekly at work for my other radio shows, but I mean for the Power Chord Hour, it had been a little while. Whenever Leo from Reminders, I forget when we did that interview. I mean, it was in January, but like, I don't know, like maybe mid-January. So like, it might have been a good month in between this one and the one with Leo. But I talked to an absolute legend yesterday, Brian Brannon of JFA. I mean, one of the like originators of skate punk, like one of the best to do it, one of the first ones to really do it. It's funny too, and I mean you'll hear all this when it comes out, which will be next month. Our next episode will or the next one you hear after this will be with Brian. But like, it's so cool to talk to someone like him where, like, I don't know, for me, punk rock and skateboarding are always, they just go hand in hand. I mean, I can't skateboard to save my life, but it's like, I would say the music and culture, they're very much entwined, like there's, I don't know so much nowadays, but I think there was a time where, including in the culture of that, where like if you met someone who skateboarded, you could just assume they listened to like punk rock, like nowadays it's very mainstream, just because you skateboard doesn't mean you listen to punk and stuff. But I think there really was a time, including in this country, where like, I mean, again, like in the 80s, where it's like if you skateboarded, that also meant you listened to like JFA or the Circle Jerks or the Descendants and stuff, or Black Flag or whatever. Like, it was just a given, I mean, and we kind of talked about that too. I mean, not even in a bad way, but just him watching it change over the years, where like, and I kind of talked about this with Greg Graffin a couple months back, which is funny because he told me, Brian was telling me a great story, JFA playing with Bad Brains and Bad Religion. There was another band they played with too, and I wasn't familiar with that band, but it was a 4-bill show, and JFA, Bad Brains, and Bad Religion. He was telling me about it. He's like, there were shows back then where you wouldn't even think about it. It's just like, oh, it's just normal. Where you look back now and you go, people don't even believe some of those lineups exist. But he had a great story about that and stuff. But I was talking with Greg Graffin about that when I interviewed him, and it's like, these guys remember punk rock when it wasn't, on the radio, it wasn't mainstream. There wasn't, I mean, there were maybe fanzines, maybe college radio would like play it and stuff, but like, you really weren't hearing, like Green Day on the radio and stuff like that. Like, that didn't exist. You know what I mean? There weren't Blink-182s in 1981. Like, that didn't exist. And, they remember getting your ass kicked for listening to punk and, punk just not being cool and stuff. I mean, again, like, I can't wait for you to hear this, because it was like, he had me cracking up for like an hour. Like, it was so much fun talking to him, because this guy JFA has been a band since 1981. That band started, he was like 14, which really kind of like Tommy Stinson. Tommy Stinson, I think, was like 11 or 12 when the Replacements started. And like, I mean, Brian, not much older. So, I mean, he's been doing it now ever since, I mean, they've been pretty like, like consistent throughout the years. Like, I don't think there was really a time where like JFA ever really broke up. Like, from 81 to now, like, I mean, they've been doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, I had so much fun talking to him. But yeah, about like punk rock and skateboarding, how like back in the day, it's like, was not cool. You know what I mean? Was not looked at as cool, was not a mainstream thing. Like, it very much like, was something underground. It's really cool to talk to someone about that because, you know, just the perspective. And I was born in 1992. So, like, you know, I grew up with, like, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you know, that soundtrack. And, like, you know, just I feel like skateboarding really wasn't, it was maybe still rebellious to a, you know, rebellious to a kid, you know, through those lenses. I don't know that in the early, you know, and I'm talking maybe now like mid 90s, early 2000s. I think at that point, maybe through the lens of a kid, it looked more rebellious. But even by then, I think that was a, you know, sport where people could make millions off endorsements. And, you know, a lot of those bands who were on those soundtracks were, you know, had gold and platinum records and stuff. So, like, you know, still a subculture in a way, but like not so underground. But, you know, again, like, there was a time where definitely was, you know, there definitely, like, you know, no one gives a shit if you like punk rock now. Like, it's really not that dangerous or rebellious. You know, walking down the street with a mohawk. This is another thing I talked about with Brian, you know, and just really interesting for someone who's gone to watch it go up and down and fluctuate throughout the years. But it's like, you know, there's a time where, like, yeah, you know, you get your ass kicked for, like, having a mohawk and, you know, a spiked jean, you know, vest or whatever, like, walking down the street. But it's like, now it's like, I don't think anyone really cares. I don't really know. I don't even know that a lot of people even take a second look at you. Like, it's kind of normal, you know, like, same with tattoos and stuff. Like, it's not the same of, you know, it's just not, it doesn't have the same danger attached to it. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not really saying that good or bad. It's just looking at, you know, I just think it's fact that if you look at it culturally, you know, we definitely, I think, look at like punks and skateboarders and stuff now is something totally different than when Brian was one, you know, back in high school. But even just shit like that, he had great stories about getting harassed by the police, you know, jocks beating him up, like, just really that classic, like, it's the stuff you hear about, but like talking to someone and then being really like, oh no, it was like that. Like, I really enjoy it. But he was having me, I was laughing for like an hour. Like, the stories were so good. Like, he was so fun. He was animated, really good dude. They have a record coming out in May called Last Ride. And they haven't released any music yet, but he was like talking about it and stuff. And like, really, like, the way he was describing the songs and the music, I'm really excited for it. But, you know, I love those dudes who've been at it for a while, where it's like, you know, because sometimes it's like, you know, when you talk to someone, you know, I'm familiar with JFA and stuff, and I know Brian. I don't know personally, but I know who Brian is and everything. But like, you know, if you're talking to someone and there's not a lot of music out, they're kind of new to music, and you're interviewing about a band and you don't know a lot about them, you know, you try to figure out those questions a little more, and you try to like go, okay, where do we take this conversation? Like with someone like Brian, I mean, it was almost just effortless. It's like you could just, you know, we could talk about, I could just bring up one thing and then who knows where we go from there. There's so many places to go, you know, and there's so many eras and different things. And I mean, getting to talk about like, you know, because like you think of Southern California when you think of like skate punk and stuff, but like obviously Arizona's not too far away. And, you know, I admittingly don't think of like Phoenix, Arizona so much. And, you know, thinking of what the punk music seemed to be like back then, I forget the Meat Men or the Meat Puppets were from, were from there. So it's like, you know, just different things like that where it's like, oh, wow, yeah, like I didn't realize they had a scene, or I didn't even not realize, but just go, I didn't know if there was or wasn't. And I guess I would assume there wasn't. But talking to him, you know, learning all this stuff, really, really cool. So I'm looking forward for all of you to hear that. Again, they'll be out next week on the podcast and radio show, and we'll get it out there. I have a couple others in the kind of written down in the books right now, some more guests coming up. So, you know, February is a quiet month. I mean, look, I try to be in an ideal world. I never miss a week. Like I love doing this show. I don't like missing a week of it. But yeah, with guests, it just kept kind of, you know, I had a couple, then they, you know, we had to reschedule, things didn't work out. And then eventually, you know, just getting busy with life and stuff. So it was like, it got to a point where like, you know, the next week is coming and I don't have a guest yet. You know, it's Thursday. I try to put these out on like Monday. And, you know, you're probably not going to get a guest in between, but I think we're pretty good from here on out. So hopefully we will continue with the guests coming up, but Brian's going to be a good one. I got to tell you, that's going to be a really, really fun one. He was so cool. It kind of, you know, it's funny because I talked about it. We had Maddie and Leo on in January, who, you know, I've had both of them on in the past. So, I mean, you know, we kind of already know each other. It's kind of talking to like an old friend or something, but like, with Brian, I never met him before, but just we kind of kicked it off, and it kind of had that same vibe where it was like, you know, kind of more of a conversation than an interview. I mean, we got into things, but it was more of, you know, I kind of asked him a question, he tells a great story, you know, he answers it, but tells a great story and stuff. And, just really just kind of bullshitting and laughing and just really a fun time, which is nice because you go into those and it's like, JFA are legends. So I'm going in, I'm like, oh man, like I have high regard for this guy. I have respect for him. And, and you go, and I still have respect for him, but you go in and it's like, oh yeah, like, you just talk to him. Like, he's going to be chill. Like, we can just bullshit. He's just like, yeah, man, like, let's set up. Like, how do, like, does this work? Is this a good, setup? Like, what you been listening to lately? This and that. It was, it was great. It kind of, cool, calms your nerves a little bit, that's something I don't think ever really goes away. I think I'm less nervous now about doing interviews than I used to be, but I don't think it ever goes away entirely. But it also depends the person too. I mean, there's also just people where you're going to be nervous interviewing them. I mean, there's people who, again, like holding in high regards or something where I just go, I mean, my God, if you hear me referring to someone as like a punk rock legend in an interview, I was probably maybe a little nervous to, talk to them. But no one's really been, I've said this too, not to like jinx myself, like no one's really been an ass who's been on. I have to genuinely tell you, don't think I've ever had a guest on who was like unbearable, who I'd never like talk to again. Like no one has ever like, you know what I mean? No one ever left a bad taste in my mouth where I could be like, giving you dirt on someone and go, yeah, that one guy was a real fucking asshole. Like I really, to be honest. And, this month was our 7th anniversary, February 19th, 2016, first broadcast. So February 19th marks 7 years of the Power Chord Hour. And, I've been doing interviews since 2016 and, yeah, really. I mean, some people are cooler than others. And I mean, some people I've stayed in contact with. Some people, did a 30-minute interview I never talked to again in 5 years, like things like that. But like, no one was really like, at least for me personally, like, yeah, like everyone was pretty rad. So I've been lucky because that doesn't always happen. Like legit doesn't always happen. But even on my other shows, I've been pretty lucky. No one who, and same thing, I guess there are other people who are maybe easier to interview than others, or better interviews, or, are more fun to talk to afterwards. I mean, because there is that. I think also some people can put it on for, being on the microphone, and then what they're like during the interview versus after is a little different. And not even in a candid way, because sometimes you're a little more candid, obviously before or after. I don't think that's weird, if you're a little more, maybe on guard sounds bad, but like, you sound a little more professional, or, being a certain way while you're on the mic versus when it's off and we're just kind of bullshitting afterwards. And you know me a little better after we talk for like an hour, But yeah, everyone's been pretty rad. But that's definitely stuff I've been thinking about this month too. Because I mean, funny enough too with the podcast, as I'm saying, we really were pretty quiet this month. But on the radio show, just thinking of 7 years of the show, it's crazy. More than that though, I mean, because seven's not really like a landmarky or anything or a milestone. It's more that I go, holy shit, 3 years will be 10. Like that's crazy. And then thinking in just ways too of like, well, I was 23 when I started. I was still in college. So you have things like, there we go. Like, so when I turn, like I did a lot around that time too. So like when this show turns 10, that's around the time I graduated college. That's the time I went cross country for the first time. So like there's all these things that I've done in my life that'll be turning 10 kind of at the same time where it's like, oh fuck, I feel old, kind of in a, but I have the weirdest thing with that too. There's times where I feel old, but I don't think that people who are older than me are old. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Like actually, like today is John Doe's birthday. The day, at least when I record this. I don't even listen to him. Maybe it's not his birthday, but if it's February 25th, it is. And a happy birthday to the legend. I mean, he is another one of. I mean, getting to do the show last 7 years was one of the biggest highlights. Talk to John Doe, but like, John Doe doesn't strut. Like I don't think of him as like a really like old person. I also go like, wow, he's so prolific and done so much in his life. Like I don't think of people in that way, or that like people particularly age, because some people have problems with that where they like don't want their like favorite musicians to age, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just, you might like a certain era better, but it's like, I don't know, as long as they're still putting out good music, I don't give a shit if you get old. Like that's just what happens. Like you're older longer than you're young. So it's like, I don't know. It's always a weird one to me. It's like, as long as it's good. I mean, if you get old and the music's not good anymore, then okay. But you have like someone like John Doe who's like putting out some of his best stuff, and he just turned 70. Like, I mean, we should all hope we can be John Doe when we're 70, but like, yeah, just stuff like that. Like I won't think of other people as like, wow, like you've been doing it. I might think you've been doing it so long and stuff like that. But even talking to Brian yesterday, like, Brian's been at it since 1981, but like I'm not like, oh man, like this old, I think he's been doing it a long time, but I don't think he's like old. Now me, I've been doing this show for 7 years. I feel old as fuck, Now none of that probably makes sense, but that's a little like insight to my to my fucked up thinking, I guess. But yeah, 7 years. The radio show was fun. I played a bunch of different parts of interviews, but I ran, even with 3 hours, I ran out of time. I guess I forget how long my interviews go, because like I had to cut some. I was gonna play some. I was actually like the last interview I was gonna do. If you're listening to the radio show, because in the second hour I was talking about I'd play some of my interview with Victor DiLorenzo. And just for the sake of time, we never even got to it. I ran out of time, so I couldn't even air it. But I think I did air maybe like 6 interviews. I think in the 3 hours, like 6 interviews, played a bunch of music and stuff. But yeah, I ended up cutting. And then there were a couple others, like I can't even remember. I don't think I played Black Dahlias, and I was originally going to play a little bit of his and didn't get to that. So there were a bunch that got cut out. I mean, it was still very hard. There's a lot in the interview archive. There are tons. But even last year, I mean, I'm really noticing too how many I did last year, when it's like I'm thinking of the ones to air, and I'm like, wow, like shit, some of the best ones were just last year. So that's the other thing, I feel like I'm slacking right now. We've had good interviews this year, just not many of them. So we gotta get back to that, I guess that's on me, not us. Me, I'm the one who's in charge of booking those. So again, apologies for the quiet February. Definitely was not what I wanted to do, but that is what we did. But again, I was still busy. It's not like I wasn't at work and stuff. I was still producing 3 radio shows with the Power Chord Hour, producing those and doing the behind the scenes stuff and all that. I can't remember exactly when it was, so maybe I talked about it on the last one a little, but with putting a show together, I think I am getting closer to it here in town, so I might actually try my hand at booking a show. I already know the bands, and I think I know the venue. It's more of just figuring that, or discussing it now, I guess. But yeah, that might happen here coming up, which would be a very fun thing in the spring or summer. And and it's something I've thought of for a very long time. Maybe not. I was gonna say even before doing the radio show, but I don't think that's true. Probably somewhere in the last, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've kind of thought about it. But I mean, it's definitely not like something I like. Was like 9 years old going, God damn, I hope one day I can book like $5 punk shows that I can maybe break even on. I don't think it was ever a dream in that sense, but it's something I would like to try my hand at. So if you're around here, trust me, I'll promote the hell out of it. But you will know about it, and I'll be excited about it, and hopefully you'll be excited about it too. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I can't believe March is already. That's the other thing, is and that's the other thing I really need to get in motion, because I was thinking about that yesterday, where like I went back in December going, this is a good time to try booking a show now for like the, like late, really kind of March or April. Like in December, I was thinking that, because I'm like, oh, I'll get an early start on it. Now it's February going to March, and I have not. I guess I have the concept and the bands and everything, but putting it all in motion. So feel free to get on my ass about that too. Tell me to kind of get going with that. But yeah, I don't have that show booked yet, but I do have a couple shows I'm excited for in March. I might have more on the plate, but right now I'm looking forward to going to see White Reaper in Cleveland, and then go see the big old tour package of Hawthorne Heights, Armor for Sleep, and Spitalfield in Buffalo. And I'm still they're playing 3 days real close to me, Buffalo, and then Cleveland and Pittsburgh, which I'm kind of tempted to go all 3, but I think with work and also just financially, I don't know that I should. I don't know, that's a responsible thing to do right now. But yeah, I think it would be fun to go see them 3 days in a row. That would like I used to back in the college days when I could go do things like that a little more. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to those shows next month. But yeah, what else? I feel, I don't know, kind of again, I feel like I was working and kind of busy with just some like life bullshit in February, but like nothing too crazy fun, like nothing, not a whole lot to like report back, not anything too wild. So yeah, that was my February. But I will say though, since I guess I really wasn't on here for that 7th anniversary, even though it was for the radio show, I mean, that's the Power Chord Hour. I mean, the Power Chord Hour started as a radio show. It's still a radio show. So, technically the podcast didn't start that month, but still, all a part of it. So, I mean, also to all of you, even if you've never listened to the radio show, though you should, I like guilting people. That's really how I get people to listen. It's not because this is quality content. It's because they feel obligated. And I think that's the thing, is which you lack in talent, you should make up for in guilting people. So that's kind of what I do here. And, I hope I make you feel like a piece of shit for not listening to my radio show. But thank you. Even if you haven't listened to the radio show before, like genuinely thank you for listening to the podcast. Very, very fun to be doing it for 7 years. And, I always get kind of retrospective this month thinking back every year. I mean, like clockwork, I obviously on milestone years more. Like I'm sure 10 will hit me harder than 7, but still, even for our 7th anniversary, definitely thinking about it all. And I appreciate it. This is always really, really fun. Even just this one, just getting on the microphone and kind of bullshitting with you for, a little while. It's always a good time. But especially the guests. I got to say, that is having people on and talking to people like Brian Brannon or like John Doe or, any of them, or Leo and Maddie, like it's one of the perks of this for sure. They're one of the biggest perks. But let's get into some new music. We'll keep this one kind of brief, but there is some good music that did come out this month, and one that just came out yesterday, and I was looking forward to it ever since they announced the EP, and we'll play the song for you in a second. But Midtown, they put out now it's a cover, but they're putting out an all covers EP, which the title explains it perfectly. It is one of the greatest titles. The EP is called We're Too Old to Write New Songs, so here's some songs we didn't write. That's coming out May 26th, but the first one is Lagwagon's Know It All, and I think there's 4 tracks on the EP, so 3 more coming, and I'm looking forward to it, but they did an amazing job on this. I mean, it sounds like Midtown, man. I mean, I know it's Midtown, but it sounds like fucking Midtown. It's really, really good. So we'll play that for you here in a second. And I would love to get Rob and Heath back on to talk that new EP. I think I'll probably be reaching out here. That one comes out in May, so I'll probably be reaching out here in the future, see if we can't get them on. The Damned, they just, more punk rock legends. They just put out a new single called The Invisible Man. They have a new record coming out, Dark Adelic, coming out April 28th. There's a lot of singles this month, like more than full lengths. There's a lot of people putting out singles for albums that are coming out either next month or like April, like the next 3 months. But a new record that did come out this month, and I'm happy for the band because, I follow them online, but also just with Asian Man Records following the whole just vinyl delay debacle and all that. But the Abrupters, they finally got their album out, Noticeably Cheerless, and I know they've been waiting to get that out for a while, and a couple other Asian Man releases too. It was taking a while to get those out, so very happy for them to finally get that out. It's really good music as well, and they're I don't know what he plays in it. Their horn player is actually from down here in Jamestown, which is cool because, again, that Asian man, the band's great, and also that Asian Man Records connection's like, oh, hell yeah, like we got, just like a little, even if it's just a little one, like a little Asian Man connection to Jamestown is fucking sick. But more new music, Fake Names, which features Dennis from Refused and Brian Baker of, all the best punk rock bands of all time. That is their band, Fake Names, and they just put out a new single called Can't Take It. They have a new album coming out, I think should be coming out like May, I believe. He's another one I would love to have Brian. Maybe so we had Greg Graffin on, maybe I can somehow use that as leverage and get him on. Because actually I've heard Brian Baker on quite a few podcasts, and he's actually a really good guest. Not even actually, I say it like it'd be surprising, but he's a really good guest. And I know over on Talking Records, I think it was the last time great podcast, you never listened to that. Shout out Talking Records podcast, really good. And Jed's a good dude. But he had a good interview with Brian Baker a while back about the Gray Race, I think was the album they talked about. But he's a good guest on podcast, so I'd love to have him on and talk some Fake Names. Sam I Am, they just put out a new single called Monterey Canyon, and their new album Stowaway will be out March 31st. I will play that song for you here in a second. Really good stuff. The Bouncing Souls, they got more legends, and actually both of them are on Pure Noise Records now, and they have a new single out, Shannon Song. They have a new record coming out as well, 10 Stories High. That will be out on March 24th, and they're doing a tour with Sam I Am, and I don't have the list in front of me, but Sam I Am's not the only band on that tour, and that lineup's really sick. I want to say the Last Gang might, I could be totally wrong. I want to say the Last Gang might be on that tour, and I can't remember who else, but there's a couple really, really good bands on that Bouncing Souls tour, and I know they're playing up in Cleveland and maybe even Buffalo, so I will probably be at that. I got to look at the dates, but I shall probably be at that show when they come near me. Dave Haas, he has a new one, Damn Personal. That is a single, like I said, a single off another new album coming up, Drive Like It's Stolen, coming out April 28th. Maddie Grace, friend of the show, she was just on last month. She just put out a great one. She is good with her song titles are great. I think I told her this, but she has a new single out, Napathy and Exhaustion. And if you listen to our interview, she has basically new music coming out like every month for the next, probably really for the rest of the year, but at least confirmed through like the summer. I think we figured out she had releases coming out once a month through like June, but that also was what was confirmed. She's still writing music and knew there's stuff coming in fall and stuff. So like probably almost something every month, which is, yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, and why wouldn't you be? She has lots of good music coming, but new one right there, Napathy and Exhaustion. Warriors, they put out a new single, Prepared to Forget. They got a new album coming out, Warm Blanket, on April 7th. Grade 2, they just put out a great new self-titled record called Grade 2. Really, really good stuff. You know, they're I've not interviewed them, but Leo from Reminders is buddies with them, and he does that Transatlantics with a couple of them. And yeah, I was telling him the other day how really, really good that record is, how much I love it. But yeah, those guys really know how to write a song. They're well worth your time to check out. Bayside, they put out a new single, How to Ruin Everything. They have a new EP called The Blue EP coming out March 17th. And Versus the World, I have been waiting for a follow-up from their last record since 2015. So I was very happy they just put out a new single like a week ago. Or actually not even a week ago, I think like a day or two ago since I recorded this. But Homesick, this is their new single, and their new album's coming, The Bastards Live Forever, May 26th. I'm not even kidding. I have been anticipating this album longer than I've been doing this show. I've been waiting for a follow-up to that since before I even started doing the Power Chord Hour. So we got to play this, right? So opening up this block of music is Versus the World with Homesick, right here on the February 2023 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right here on the February 2023 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was Sam I Am with Monterey Canyon, the, I guess, first single off their upcoming record, Stowaway. They'll be out March 31st. Before that, Midtown, cannot believe we got something new from them. A great cover of Lagwagon's Know It All. That will be on their EP, We're Too Old to Write New Songs, so here's some songs we didn't write, out May 26th. And opening up that block of music, that was Versus the World with Homesick, the first single off their upcoming record, The Bastards Live Forever, also coming out May 26th. That is going to be a very good release day, and who knows, maybe we'll hear some of the musicians who played or who play. It's weird. What I'm trying to say, and I'm wording extremely weird, is maybe we will get some guests on this show from said bands there. That would be very cool. Obviously, we've had Midtown on already, Heath and Rob, but would love to have them back on. And again, like I said, I've been waiting for a new Versus the World record since 2015, so would love to have Donald Spence on, or really any of those dudes. But yeah, who knows? We will see down the line. But yeah, let's get into a little music news. Poozza Fest announced their first wave of bands that will be playing. They also announced their dates. It'll be May 19th, 20th, and the 21st in Montreal. This year, they have announced the Flatliners, Paint It Black, Screaming Females, Prince Daddy and the Hyena, Broadway Calls, Brendan Kelly, City of Caterpillar. You got the Beatdown, Dog Party, Dollar Signs, Teens in Trouble, Lone Wolf, Ancient Teeth, Answering Machine, and many, many more. There are an ungodly amount of bands playing, and yeah, it's almost like Canadian Fest, like just this huge festival of all the best like punk bands doing it right now. Like, looks like a really good lineup. I cannot say. Oh, and actually, of all the other ones too, Maddie Grace, talking about earlier, Maddie Grace will also be playing that. I feel like I knew I was forgetting one, because I feel like she plays probably every year, if not solo in Cluttered or in another band. So yeah, I mean, of course Maddie is playing Poozza. But I wonder, actually, now I have to look. I don't know if they are. Is Talk Show Host playing this year? That was where I believe Talk Show Host, I don't believe they are playing this year, or not yet, because I think this is the first wave. So there's still some announcements coming. But yeah, I mean, insane amounts. That is a great festival. That is one I would love to get. Just like, as I was calling it, Canadian Fest, I would like to go to American Fest, and I would like to go to Poozza Fest at some point. It is not one I can say I've been to, but that would be worth traveling to. I don't know how far Montreal is from me. I actually have to look into that. Toronto, I mean, if you're not familiar with Jamestown, I mean, I'm like 90 minutes from Buffalo, so it's like I'm right by the Canadian border. I mean, like hour and a half I can be at the Peace Bridge. So, like getting to like Toronto's like I think 2.5, 3 hours from me. Like it's about as far as driving to like Pittsburgh, but like driving to Detroit takes longer than driving to Toronto would. So I gotta look about Montreal. I don't know if that's a doable one or not, but I would definitely like to go to Pouzza Fest, and not a bad year at all. So who knows? Maybe I will. Actually, I'll have to look at the dates because I do think I'm going to Adjacent Fest this year in New Jersey in May. There's 2 days. I'm going to go to the second day, and I'm going to forget a bunch of bands, but that day, Blink, Midtown, Coheed and Cambria. Oh, man, who else? The Starting Line. I think there might be another drive-through band, and a couple others. Folly, great New Jersey pop-punk band. And, really, really a good... I'm forgetting a bunch of bands because, honestly, it's well worth the drive. I mean, even just the bands I mentioned are great, but there's even more. Oh, Turnstile. I don't know. You gotta go look. The first day is a good lineup too, but less of, just for me personally, less bands I need to see. Whereas day 2, it would well worth be the drive, the whatever, like 7-8 hour drive to New Jersey. And it would mark the second time I drove to New Jersey to see Midtown play. So and in May also. It's like around the same time. So everything would be very, very fitting there. So I feel like I just have to, But more news and some sad news. If you didn't see, John Worster did leave Superchunk, or at least kind of half left Superchunk, I would say. But in his press release, he put his famous shirt up on Instagram. And underneath the post said, "After much soul searching, I've decided to fade back from my role as director of percussive research at Superchunk Industries. It's been a very productive 31 years, but my heart just isn't in it anymore. I'll most likely don the shirt on special occasions, but unless otherwise noted, my office will be occupied by a more than capable to-be-named Dupro, the immensely talented at LK Broiler." I wasn't able to click on that yet, so I know the name. At LK Broilers, probably only their Instagram handle, will be behind the kit 1 week from tonight at the Carolina Hurricanes Fan Fest in Raleigh, North Carolina. I wish nothing but the best for Mac, Jim, and Jason as they continue producing the high-quality live rock music you've come to know and love. It's been an honor serving you, and I'll rock your faces somewhere down the line. John Worster, February 10th, 2023. I mean, that's a sad one. That Superchunk is one of those bands where, I know Laura is in the band. She just doesn't really tour so much, but, they're just one of those ones where that lineup is just that's just kind of them, you think of it as those four. I mean, I know Jason, plays live and stuff, but, you still think of Laura and Superchunk. And that was definitely unexpected. And he also, I don't think he meant to, but it was also the same day that On the Mouth turned 30, the Superchunk record. So I mean, even the fact that they're celebrating the 30th anniversary of a record, But I mean, that's obviously very sad. He's an amazing drummer. I've gone to see him. I saw Superchunk live, and then when I saw Bob Mould live, he was playing. Also Jason, actually, same rhythm section. Bob Mould had the same rhythm section as Superchunk. And he's just such a great drummer. He'll definitely be missed in the band. It is nice to see, though. I mean, that does sound like, even though he's not going to play a lot, it'll probably be like Laura, where like I bet they'll do one-offs or hometown shows. Like if you're in North Carolina, you might have a better chance of seeing like, the four of them play. But, and I mean, Jason's great too. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see, I've never seen them play with Laura, so that would be really cool to see him play with her. I mean, her, what's funny? She kind of reminds me of like Patty from Dillinger 4, where their bass tone isn't anything that I would personally want to like when I go, like I play bass and like, it's not really a tone I personally go for, but I really like the tone in the bands. Like I feel like they both have that gritty, like distorted, basically distorted bass, like high gain, a little distorted bass and a P bass. Both of them play P basses. But it's funny because like I really like their tones, but it's nothing I would ever. It's kind of like I kind of feel that way when I listen to like the Smashing Pumpkins, where I'm like, I do own a Big Muff pedal, but like, I listen to it and like the guitar tones and stuff like that. It's like I really like it and it works for like melancholy or whatever. but it's nothing I would like sit here and try to dial in for what I'm playing. It's definitely nothing I would ever, ever go for. I'd probably go more for Mac's guitar tone over Laura's bass tone in terms of what I would do personally. But when I listen to Superchunk, I fucking love her. That bass. Isn't like Detroit has a skyline. Like, I mean, that opening, like, so much of that is that beefy fucking low end bass. You know what I mean? So yeah, hopefully that means there'll be a chance, because I would still love to see the four of them. Of Mac, Jim, Laura, and John. That would be really cool to see all four of them play together. No shade to Jason. He's a great bass player, and he was really good live too. I mean, good replacement for Laura, but still, I'd love to see the four of them play. But who knows when that'll be now? But hopefully somewhere down the line, like John said. And one more piece of music news for you. This one made me happy. This will clean our palate. We'll end on a high note, because it is a rad tour hitting Canada and the USA this summer. It is the Dirty Nil in Daniel Romano's outfit. I will be completely honest. I still have to listen to Daniel Romano's outfit. Never listened to him. But the Dirty Nil, I think if you listen to the show, I fucking love the Dirty Nil, which also probably means that the other band is great too. I mean, if they're touring with them. But I'm excited because they are playing Buffalo on July 14th at the Rec Room. It'll be my first time seeing them live. Somehow, I don't know how it's kind of like how I've never seen X live, and they tour a lot. I mean, I feel like the Dirty Nil, I mean, a little less during COVID though. But I've somehow never seen them live, even though they're one of my favorite bands. And my buddy Zach got to see them a couple years ago and has always told me just how good that show was. And every video I've seen, they're amazing live. So I'm really excited for that. And other places though, I will let, if you're not in the Buffalo area, don't worry, they're playing all around. You got dates in Ferndale, Michigan, St. Paul, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Manitoba. That did rhyme, and I did that on purpose. Vancouver, British Columbia. They'll be playing Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Arizona, El Paso, Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta, Syracuse, New York City, Hamden, Connecticut, Boston. They're playing all around. If you live in the USA, if you live in Canada, go check it out. Speaking of Zach, he was bitching that there are no Midwest dates, but he's kind of lying. I mean, there's no Illinois. He lives in Illinois. They're not playing Illinois, but they are playing. I mean, Michigan and Minnesota are both considered Midwest. So I would say, are they playing a lot in the Midwest? No, but I would still say they're playing the Midwest. So they're kind of hitting all around. So if you live in Canada, actually, if you live in Ontario, I don't think they're playing Ontario. But if you live in Canada or USA, check that out. I'm really excited for that tour. I fucking love the Dirty Nil. And I'm hoping that also means that we get a new album, because Fuck Art has turned 2 now. So I'm thinking this is the year we get a new Dirty Nil record. They put that single out a little while back, and it was a good single, but I need more. I love this band. Every time I listen to them, I go, holy shit. Like, including, like, I like new music. Obviously, I try to highlight and stuff, but, like, I do feel like I go back and, my favorites are, like, the Replacements and the Ramones and, like, old, bands who are no longer around, bands where, like, all the members are dead kind of thing, but, like, so I think so the best are those older bands. I'm not someone who thinks, like, obviously, I fucking hate that, like, oh, no one makes good music anymore. That's not true at all. But, I mean, a lot of my favorites are the older ones. But then I listen to something like Dirty Nil, and I'm like, I'm so happy that, like, in real time I get to hear this stuff. It's not me discovering Let It Be, 30 years after it's been released or whatever. It's like, oh, fuck, like, I get to, I love an album as much as I do like Fuck Art, and I get to remember buying it the day it came out kind of stuff, But, I love them. I hope we get a new album from them soon, and I am very much looking forward to that tour. I was actually sad because, I love that band, and if they were playing, that is a band that actually, and it takes a lot for me to do it these days, but, like, that is one where if they were also playing, like, Toronto and, like, Cleveland on that tour, I probably would hit Buffalo, Cleveland, and Toronto. Like, I probably would hit, like, 3 dates. Even those Michigan dates, I would have to look, because Michigan's not as far as you would think from me, because I think Detroit's, like, 4 hours, so I don't entirely remember what Grand Rapids and Ferndale is, but those may be within like 3 hours. It's still a long fucking drive. You got to drive through Ohio, and that's a goddamn long drive. And I love, if you're listening to Ohio, I enjoy your state. I go to Cleveland a good amount. I even just there's a Waffle House in Austinburg, Ohio, closest one to Jamestown. And more than once I've won money at the casino in Erie and went, fuck it, I'm gonna treat myself and drive up to Waffle House because Waffle House is so goddamn good. But yeah, I love Ohio's great, but driving, at least the drive through Ohio, I think it might be on 70, and I don't know. I don't take the turnpike because I'm a cheap bastard. I probably should, but like the back, I guess it'd be like the back way. I don't know what it would be off the top of my head, but it's one of the most boring drives. It's so long. Like when I drive cross country, like I will be like I dread it, either driving through it or when I'm coming back home and I like know I have to drive through it. There's just something about it. A lot of it's really goddamn boring. But yeah, anyways, I got to look those up because if they're close enough, actually, maybe I'll go to St. Paul. That's a good excuse to go visit my friends in Minneapolis and go see the Dirty Nil in St. Paul in June. But yeah, I'm looking for. I have those shows, those 2 shows coming up in March. But really, I think in the summertime there are quite a few shows that I definitely have to be at, and the Dirty Nil being one of them. I miss going, you know, I didn't go to any shows really this month. The Arts on Fire Live, man, I get a little private performance, which was really good from the Electric Kings this month. Really good, like kind of surf rock, garage rock band, great local band here. But which actually their singer might be coming on here because he got his start in 80s like punk rock. And I started talking to him. I didn't know this about until after. Like he like played with Naked Ray Gun and Screeching Weasel. He owns a copy of the very first. He sent me pictures. Not even the first album, like the first demo tape. He owns in like amazing, like clean condition. Like I couldn't believe it. So his music's really good too. Certain Death, if you've never heard him, you go look him up. He put a couple things online. I don't think there's a ton, but actually, if you were there back in the day, though, you might know him because they did play a lot and played with tons of people. So he might be on here sometime soon talking about that scene. He's a really good dude. So we'll see if we can't get that set up. I'm talking to him right now, so we'll get that one figured out. But that would be very fun. But yeah, that is going to be this episode of the February 2023 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Again, my apologies for being so quiet this month. I mean, if you listen to the radio show, which, as I always say, you can stream from anywhere, you know, that was new every week. So, I mean, you know, even if the podcast isn't on for a week, there is a good chance I still do the radio show because even if we don't have a guest, you know, I can still throw together a bitchin' playlist, if you pardon my French, a bitchin' playlist for you know, your Friday night, or if you're listening to the replay on Tuesdays. That's the other thing. Don't forget, we got that new replay. If you can't listen Friday nights 8 to 11 Eastern, you can listen Tuesdays midnight to 3 a.m. And you know, if you're listening on the West Coast, that's 9 to midnight. So why not tune in and check that out? But yeah, so again, new radio shows every Friday night, 8 to 11 Eastern on 107.9 WRFA. You can stream that station on WRFALP.com. And the replays Tuesday night, midnight to 3. And again, that is different from here. I mean, same interviews, but I play a bunch of music, talk some shit, all that good stuff. But more of a radio show format and really, really fun. That's the original. I've been doing that now for 7 years. Just absolutely crazy. But follow us online on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You'll find the Power Chord Hour there. Hit me up, powerchordhour@gmail.com. I was just thinking about it. I have not had stickers. Once again, bringing up Zach. I gave Zach the last couple stickers when we were in St. Louis to put him on a fucking, I think a light post. I can't remember. On something he shouldn't have been that I told him to do. Because we were walking by. I can't remember. I think it was a light post. I mean, it wasn't anything terrible, but I mean, it was kind of like I was a bad influence. I'm like, come on, dude, like go fucking put that on there. Come on, like go do that, dude. Come on, like go put that over there. Go put that over there. I'm bad influence, you know. But yeah, we use those up in St. Louis, so I gotta get some more Power Chord Hour stickers. I don't have those, but I mean, if you ever just want to, I don't know, tell me good show, tell me bad show, whatever, fuck off. powerchordhour@gmail.com or just message me on social media. And what else? Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the podcast. If you like what you're listening to, I mean, I really make nothing on this thing. It is a labor of love. I may work in radio, but Power Chord Hour I do not get paid for. So if you enjoy this and you would like to contribute to the show, and it's not going in my pocket, because trust me, unless there's a huge influx and people start really sending money, it's going to go to server costs and all that. I'm actually probably buying more stickers too. So in the podcast notes below, there is the link to my PayPal and Cash App. If you'd like to donate a couple bucks, whatever you donate, I really appreciate it. We don't have a Patreon or anything. So, you know, if you want to send me $1 one time, that's cool. Like there's really no like honestly, like sincerely, like I appreciate that. Like, send a buck once, that's cool. Like, I would be more stoked on it than you would even know. But yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm done begging for money. Definitely tune back in next week. It'll be much better than my stupid ramblings. I will be talking to Brian Brannon, the legend, the skate punk legend of JFA, aka Jodie Foster's Army. They have been at it since 1981. So we talked about a ton. They'll be on the next episode. Make sure you tune in. But until then, for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.